Morning, good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. We begin this hour with the war in Iran. President Trump says a deal could happen this weekend, but on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are sending their own message about the conflict. In a rare rebuke of President Trump, 4 House Republicans sided with Democrats yesterday to approve an Iran war powers resolution. It's a largely symbolic measure directing the president to stop hostilities with Iran unless Congress approves military action. This resolution is the latest sign of the growing rift between Republicans in the White House. As President Trump once again talks up the possibility of an Iranian peace deal, the State Department says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a new ceasefire in their conflict. NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr joins us with the very latest. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. And the push for a peace deal may have gotten an important boost after that U.S. State Department announcement of a new ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Iran has said an end to the fighting in Lebanon was central to any broader agreement. This morning, dramatic new images of the Iranian strike on an international airport in U.S. ally Kuwait that killed 1 person and highlighted the fragile state of the U.S.-Iran ceasefire. That after the U.S. military said it shot down Iranian drones near the Strait of Hormuz and attacked a military installation on an island. Despite the rising tensions, President Trump says a peace deal could come soon.
If it happens, and it might not happen, who knows? But if it happens, it could happen like over the weekend.
Iran's top diplomat said no progress had been made in negotiations, but that communication with the U.S. was not cut off after Iranian state media reported Tehran would suspend talks over Israel's growing attacks against Iran-backed militants in Lebanon. Now, Lebanon and Israel agreeing to a new ceasefire, according to a joint statement with the U.S. State Department following negotiations in Washington. While on Capitol Hill, the House passed a resolution directing President Trump to stop the war unless Congress gives its approval. 4 Republicans joined all Democrats in the vote that, while symbolic, offered a rare rebuke.
Congress alone declares war. That's something that we have to be, certainly protective of.
Elsewhere in Washington, President Trump touting renovations for the America 250 celebrations, from restoring the iconic reflecting pool outside the Lincoln Memorial.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be American flag blue.
To the makeshift UFC arena over the White House South Lawn for a match on the president's birthday, June 14th, to plans for a massive arch up for discussion at a planning commission today, amid complaints it will block views of Arlington National Cemetery. Back on Capitol Hill, that House-passed resolution aiming to end the Iran war now heads to the Senate, which had already advanced its own similar measure last month but didn't hold a final vote. Even if either version were to pass both chambers, President Trump still has his veto power. The White House has dismissed any congressional effort to limit his war powers as unconstitutional. Joe.
Alice, and we're learning really key to all this is what happens between Israel and Lebanon. So what more can you tell us about the ceasefire between them?
Yeah, the State Department outlined plans to have Lebanese forces control so-called pilot zones in southern Lebanon, where they'd have to ensure that all Iran-backed Hezbollah militants evacuate. In return, Israeli forces would withdraw. The Israeli ambassador to the U.S. told reporters this deal has to mean an end to Hezbollah moving back in after past similar agreements. And just now, this morning, the Lebanese president said this is the last chance for a comprehensive ceasefire, and each party would bear the responsibility if it's broken. Joe.
All right, Alice Barr in Washington, thank you so much. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now with more on all this. Gary, good morning. Good to have you with us. It has been a rocky week for the president's agenda. We know his so-called anti-weaponization fund was abandoned. Now several Republicans have joined ranks with Democrats to advance this war powers resolution. The vote has failed many times since the war began. So what's different now?
Yeah, 4 Republicans voting for this war powers resolution. It's a largely symbolic resolution, as Alice was talking about. This could go to the Senate, but even if the Senate does end up passing it, it'll have to come back to the House before it actually ends up going to the president's desk at all. And of course, the president could certainly veto this if possible. But the White House is downplaying this vote by the House of Representatives, saying it was simply just a matter of several Republicans being absent from the House yesterday and not participating in this vote. But this does speak to the larger issue here of Republicans getting fed up with the president as it relates to him doing things without their congressional authority.
Gary, one staunch defender of the president and his agenda has been the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche. President Trump now says he will be formally nominated as Attorney General later today. We know Blanche stepped into the role after Pam Bondi was fired in April. He also once served as the president's personal defense attorney. So what does the Justice Department look like under his leadership in this brief window so far? And in this political environment, is there any danger of him not getting confirmed by the Senate?
Over the past couple of months, we've seen a bit of an arms race between him and Jeanine Pirro and Harmeet Gill and other people that potentially were up for this top job. But as Todd Blanche made clear in an interview recently, this is President Trump's Justice Department, and he's going to take cues from the president as to what is going to get done at the DOJ. And we've seen a ton get done over the past 2 months, like it or not. Blanche has stood up a fraud enforcement division. He's done that whole weaponization fund that ended up getting shot down. He's indicted James Comey over an Instagram photo. He has indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center, and he has indicted Raul Castro down in Cuba. So a lot got done by Todd Blanche, and the president seems quite pleased with what he's done.
Gary, before we let you go, we want to talk about somewhat of a bizarre exchange on Capitol Hill yesterday over President Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. His name is Bill Pulte. It would appear he maybe had a little disagreement with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who was then questioned yesterday by Republican Senator Thom Tillis.
Did you actually tell Pulte you were going to punch him in the face?
No, sir. I actually said I was going to kick his ass.
Good. Okay. Good. I share the emotion. Thank you.
And as I said, that was last summer, summer 25, and many teams have fights in the locker room and then go out and win for the team on the field.
So, Gary, that's one way of pointing out that Pulte is considered a rather controversial pick for this role. He has no intelligence experience. What's the story here?
So this goes back to some reporting from last summer that indicated the Treasury Secretary and the head of the Federal Housing Agency really got into it at the White House during a private dinner. Bessent there confirming it, and because it's a federal crime to lie to Congress, he told the truth about what he actually said during that. But I think this all goes back to the larger issue of some of the president's more experienced cabinet members, people with actual financial experience, getting upset with folks that come in and think they can just try to investigate folks for mortgage fraud, which is what Bill Pulte has done, just investigating several of the president's alleged perceived enemies for mortgage fraud, all of which have failed. Joe?
All right, Gary Grumbach, thank you so much. The Justice Department charged a U.S.-Iranian businessman with conspiring to violate sanctions against Iran. The tech CEO was arrested in California on accusations he sent U.S. technology to Iran's military. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell has that story.
A posh Southern California gated enclave, the scene of an arrest as law enforcement surrounded a $35 million Newport Beach mansion, taking a 63-year-old CEO, U.S. citizen with ties to Iran, into custody on charges he conspired to violate sanctions law. Federal prosecutors say Jamshid Gomi engaged in a complex scheme to supply U.S. technology to Iran's Atomic Energy Organization in violation of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. In a dense 100-page criminal complaint, an IRS investigator writes that the suspect actively operated and managed illegal business operations. His sales valued at more than $10 million a year. His clientele included hundreds of Iranian companies and government entities. The criminal complaint alleges he laundered the proceeds of his illegal business into the United States, including high-priced real estate. While the U.S. has been engaged in military conflict with Iran for more than 3 months, that international crisis serves as a noteworthy backdrop for a probe that actually goes back years. The criminal complaint says that for more than a decade, Gomi used his company to procure large quantities of U.S. networking equipment for customers in Iran. In Santa Ana, California, Gomi made an initial court appearance. No plea was entered. And beyond the arrest, authorities have been conducting a court-approved search of his property.
All right, Kelly, thank you. Staying in California, millions of ballots are still being counted this morning for several key primary races. The governor's race remains still too early to call. Trump-endorsed Republican candidate Steve Hilton and Democrat Javier Becerra currently lead the race. It has become the most expensive governor's race in American history. Candidates are looking to replace Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, who has maxed out how long he can serve. And in the Los Angeles mayor's race, reality TV star Spencer Pratt still holding on to second place ahead of Democratic City Councilwoman Nithya Raman. The contest will decide who will face the city's current leader, Democratic Mayor Karen Bass, in a runoff election this fall. So far, less than 60% of the votes have been counted statewide. That means it could be days before we get results in these tight races. Of course, we'll continue to bring you the latest numbers as we get them. Disgraced former Republican Congressman George Santos is now at the center of a new controversy. According to two NBC News sources, the online prediction website Kalshi sent a criminal referral about possible insider trading to the Justice Department. This is regarding alleged bets that Santos made on its platform. It's all centered around a bet that Santos allegedly made on his own potential appearance at this year's State of the Union address. We should note this referral does not mean there is a criminal investigation underway by the Justice Department, and it's unclear if a formal investigation has been opened. Santos said on social media that his legal team is in contact with the DOJ, adding, quote, "The basis of the accusation is preposterous, and I look forward to supplying any information asked of me to any agency that inquires." NBC News senior justice reporter Ryan Riley joins me now with more on this. Ryan, good morning. So in a social media post, Santos said hundreds of reporters have been calling him. He asked them to basically stop doing that. Kalshi declined to comment on its referral. So walk me through the details and why did the platform seemingly report him?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Kalshi has an interest in making sure that their market isn't being manipulated here, right? So I think that we've seen instances before where there have been, publications or promotions of these sort of referrals or this notion that there's a federal investigation going on. And I think, there were two letters in here, one to the Justice Department and one to this other commission. And so it's unclear, at this point, how exactly this is going to move forward. But if you look at this sort of big picture and take a step back, this is someone who was pardoned by Donald Trump, mere months ago. And so given his influence over the Justice Department these days, you've got to question and wonder whether or not that's something that anyone would be willing to open on, given the backlash that you might receive from the White House here. And given how, Todd Blanche, who now has received the nomination, has really pushed forward cases that go against the president's enemies, not typically the president's allies.
So, Ryan, have we heard anything from the DOJ since Kalshi reported Santos?
Yeah, typically they're not supposed to really comment on these ongoing investigations. We've gotten indications that there's not really a full investigation opened at this point. And so I think that's sort of where things stand. That's not to say something couldn't be in the future, but right now it's essentially a letter. And, the Justice Department, as you pointed out there, doesn't just open up an investigation based upon a letter alone. And so there's another comparator case here that obviously involves the Maduro raid, where there's classified information involved. And so you could draw a distinction between that and say, hey, they've gone after these sort of related or somewhat comparative cases in the past. But of course, that case involved, classified information and a government employee. So it's on a much higher level than you're talking about, a former congressman who was not using government information. It's just a different sort of case. So theoretically, they could just allow this to sort of take that administrative route and not become a full criminal investigation.
Yeah. Is there a sense that a formal investigation could be launched?
Yeah, it depends upon what they're sort of going to do here, right? I mean, they could theoretically open this, but I think if you put yourself in the shoes of a career federal prosecutor, you're probably going to want sign off from the upper echelons of the Justice Department for going after someone who's associated with Donald Trump. That's a good way to get yourself in trouble.
According to one of our NBC sources, I know Kalshi also reported Santos to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Tell us why that agency, what could be potential outcomes there?
Yeah, so I think that's probably where we're likely to see action, because there's some, degree of independence, and it's not necessarily, the criminal pursuit that would go through the Justice Department there. I think that's probably where we're likely to see an actual inquiry go forward. But just given, the overall view of what the Justice Department is up to these days, it's probably good to be skeptical of the notion that they would move forward with a full investigation of someone who's so closely affiliated with Donald Trump.
All right, Ryan Riley. Ryan, thank you so much. In California, a high school graduation turned deadly when a gunman opened fire after the ceremony last night. Police say an 18-year-old was killed and 3 others were wounded in the shooting at Fairfield High School that's southwest of Sacramento. The youngest of the shooting victims was 11 years old. The victims are being treated at hospitals. Their conditions are unknown at this time. The graduation ceremony was actually for Semieto High School, which shares a campus with Fairfield High. A suspect has not yet been identified. We're also learning new details this morning about that terrifying hostage situation in Bakersfield, California. An FBI sharpshooter shot and killed the suspect after a lengthy standoff. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson has the latest details.
A harrowing 15-hour crisis. This man strapping explosives to himself, spouting demands to authorities while keeping multiple hostages tied, terrorized, and held captive. Authorities say the suspect, 41-year-old Anthony Scott Searles Harris, was shot and killed at the scene by an FBI strike team. No one else was hurt, including all hostages inside.
The advisor is a male subject inside the bank with a bomb strapped to his chest.
Police called to the scene Tuesday afternoon when authorities say Searles Harris stormed an office building in downtown Bakersfield that also houses a bank, claiming to have an explosive device, barricading himself on the second floor, where he took 10 employees from the Kern County Superintendent of Schools as hostages. Some had additional explosives attached to them, according to law enforcement.
He's demanding an FBI negotiator. We still have no entry. We're talking through the glass.
5 of those hostages were tied up, officials say. Video taken during the crisis shows 2 people inside that building. Crisis negotiators able to secure the release of 2 hostages during the day.
The first being at 3:59 p.m. and the second being at 8:24 p.m.
But as the night went on, the suspect became more erratic, and knowing one of the hostages was diabetic, they were running out of time. That's when the FBI sent in their strike team.
Authorities say Searles Harris was an Army veteran, dishonorably discharged in the mid-2000s for going AWOL, and is a registered sex offender.
He was no stranger to law enforcement and has a criminal history of using weapons to commit violent offenses.
And authorities still working to determine a motive. Officials do not believe the people inside that office were intentionally targeted. But take a look around here. You can see the scene still being processed. They're still searching for a motive for what turned out to be an incredibly difficult experience for the folks who were held captive. Send it back to you.
All right, Steve, thank you. This morning, we're keeping an eye on the possibility for some severe weather, so let's get some details with meteorologist Andrea Romero. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Joe. And these June storms really don't want to let up. They continue to impact the middle of the country with showers and storms that are developing here, with supercells likely later today into the evening hours. And this weather will continue to move on into parts of the Great Lakes tomorrow as a cold front sets up in this region, with scattered severe storms possible into the night in the Midwest for tomorrow evening. So this activity will continue. The main precipitation event will probably be here, where locally up to 4 inches of rainfall is possible. We're talking about areas of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and even here parts of Missouri can get into that heavy rainfall, with flood watches already up for this area stretching from Des Moines all the way up to Manhattan, Concordia, where we do have flash flood warnings this morning for parts of north central Kansas. Now, we are expecting this flash flood risk to continue today, extending all the way from Texas up into the Dakotas, especially in this area where we're expecting the possibility of some severe weather with hourly rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. And of course, that damaging hail, 2 inches in diameter, that's egg-sized hail, wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. And of course, we can't rule out the possibility of a tornado or 2 also developing. Now, this threat will shift on eastward into tomorrow. 5 million people will be at risk, and we're looking at the possibility of severe weather even into the Great Lakes. Now, the next big story, of course, is the warm air that's expanding all the way from California into Maine. We're looking at above average temperatures in the northern tier of the country into the northeast tomorrow. Most areas from Syracuse, New York, Norfolk, they'll be in the 90s. Even Detroit will be in the 90s. So that's temperatures around like 15 degrees above average through Saturday. Potential record heat in those major cities that we're seeing there. Newark, we're talking about maybe Poughkeepsie, Bridgeport, all the way down into Virginia. So the heat will be on for the next couple of days. The Gulf storms will also be impacting parts of Texas into Louisiana with that severe weather in the Midwest into tomorrow. And then Saturday, of course, some more activity will be shifting eastward, and we could even have some rain on Sunday along the Northeast.
Got it. But for those who complained about weather, rain on weekends in the past, they're not allowed to complain about heat on weekends this
Absolutely
weekend, right?
not. You can't have it both ways.
I agree. You don't like the rain, you're going to get the heat. All right,
Yes.
Andrea, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Questions are still swirling about the future of one of the most honored news programs on TV. Veteran 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley was fired by the show's new executive producer on Tuesday, one day after a tense meeting. Now only 3 correspondents remain, leaving some to wonder if they plan to stay or leave. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has the latest.
I'm Scott Pelley.
Longtime 60-Minute veteran correspondent Scott Pelley is firing back after being fired by CBS. Pelley saying CBS executives are lying about why he was let go from one of the top-rated shows in America. The longtime CBS reporter had blasted the new top producer of 60 Minutes and CBS News leadership in a staff-wide meeting, saying they are murdering the storied newscast. Pelley then met with top executives, including the network's controversial editor-in-chief, Barry Weiss, who said that despite attempts to engage with him, they weren't able to find a way back after she says he broke the newsroom's foundation of trust and mutual respect. Pelley also accusing management of wreaking havoc on the show and instructing him to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. As parent company Paramount Skydance's $110 billion merger with Warner Brothers Discovery awaits regulatory approval from the Trump administration. The ticking clock of 60 Minutes has been around for 58 years and near the top of the ratings for decades.
What we're really looking at is 60 Minutes, gold standard of journalism, most popular news program in America for over half a century, fundamentally being completely redone, rethought, restructured.
Barry Weiss, founder of a conservative-leaning website, was brought into the network to change things up. She cleaned house at 60 Minutes, getting rid of the show's top producers. And with 4 full-time correspondents recently out, only 3 remain, including the legendary Leslie Stahl, who is yet to speak publicly about the chaos at her show. Aaron McLaughlin, NBC News.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.